Welcome to Julie Whitney Scott Presents Let's Talk Theater, a Mind for God production sponsored event, heard only on WGRN LP 94.1, the Green Renaissance Station. Let's Talk Theater.
Welcome to Let's Talk Theater. I'm your host, Julie Whitney Scott, and I am so glad to have with me today, right here in Let's Talk Theater world, with me, someone that I just saw perform last weekend in Head Over Heels. Now, I'm here to tell you, if you haven't got your tickets yet, there's 2 more weekends. You better get your tickets, because Head Over Heels is going to make you fall in love with not only the cast, the director, the set, the scene, the music, the dance, the people. It's going to help you fall in love again with your own self. You don't believe me? I have Kendra Lynn Lucas here with me today. She is one of the performers in Head Over Heels, and she's going to talk to us about Head Over Heels. I am so happy to have you with me, Kendra.
Well, thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, I think I've already led into the lead in to Head Over Heels. But before we get to talking about that, let the people know, my audience members and listeners, a little bit about you and your theater background.
Well, I've been doing theater for, oh gosh, I don't think I could put a number on it, for as long as I can remember. My family, I grew up in a family of a lot of musicians. My dad was a singer along with his sisters. They had a family group growing up. So I grew up singing and things like that. And I kind of found theater by happenstance. And I've been doing it since I was young. I've been doing it professionally full time for a little over 25 years now. So I was very blessed with a long career. I went to Wright State University for acting. I currently live in New York City, and I still travel a little bit and do theater today.
Well, I'm glad you traveled here to Columbus, Ohio.
Well, I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, so they always bring me back when they can.
Oh, see, now that was a very important thing that you left out. That not only do you live in New York City, New York, but you also are a hometown girl from right here in Columbus, Ohio. How exciting is it for you to be able to come back to your home? And hey, I think we should give a shout out to those of us that came before us that helped us to be where we are today. What's the name of your parents' group and stuff that they were in?
My father, when I was growing up, was in a group with his sisters called the Scott Chorale. And it was my dad and his 4 sisters. And of course, throughout the years, there were other members that popped in and popped out. But we grew up in the AME church. So they played all around that circuit, all the churches in Columbus for as long as I can remember. And for me, it was just a blessing, obviously, because it's where I got my first start with, performing and things like that. So I thought it was a blessing. And yes, I am a hometown girl. I love coming back to Columbus to do theater for several different reasons. Number one, to see the way that the theater community has developed since I was younger here in Columbus. And just knowing now that there are more professional opportunities that I can actually come here and, make a living doing it, and that they're just making other opportunities for other people in this area, and not just to do it, but to get to see really good quality theater. And there's this misconception that New York is the only place that you can go to see good theater, and it's not true. You can go anywhere, and I'm happy to say Columbus is definitely one of those places where I've seen some great theater, I've done some great theater, and I know it's here and I know it exists.
You are so right, Kendra. I tell people all the time that Columbus, Ohio, it's a little off Broadway. We have everything going here in Columbus. Every weekend, there's 3 or 4 shows that you can go see. Now, and what I'm really loving about this is that COVID had shut us down for 2 years. And now we are back, and we are back with full force. Tell us, You being in New York, from New York, and I'm, well, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to get your opinion on something. But
Okay.
how do you feel about the difference between the theater that you see, since we brought it up, like in Broadway, and the theater here? Is there any difference in what's produced or shown?
As far as so the as far let me think how to say this. Resources are a little bit different in New York, obviously. There's more resources, there's these giant producers that have millions of dollars. So of course sometimes the what you see in front of you is going to appear a little bit different. They have these giant theater houses that were built 50 years ago, that were built specifically for this. So of course the aesthetic of things look a little bit different. It's a broader population, so there's more what's the word I'm looking for? More people and things like that to choose from. But as far as the quality of being able to tell the story goes, I believe that's going to be the same that you'll see here in Columbus. Obviously, there's a lot of really great talent here in Columbus, Ohio. So when it comes to that, there's not too much of a difference. But when it comes to the aesthetics of things, of course, it's going to look a little bit different because, we're dealing with some different areas and different money for sure. But I think you can still see a good quality show here. I mean, you're definitely going to get a better bang for your buck in Ohio for what you see and what you get. That's for sure.
Now, tell everybody about your role in Head Over Heels.
Absolutely. So I play Queen Gynecia, and she is obviously there's a king in the show as well, but Queen Gynecia, I love her because she is a strong queen. She's a smart queen. She's not a queen that you normally see in movies where they just take a back seat and listen to what their husband says. She definitely questions everything, and she likes to take care of her community, and she kind of, I don't want to say iron fist, but she rules everything with a lovable sternness, if that makes any sense. And it's such a great role to play. It was it's not it's a role that can be played by anyone. You don't typically see a Black woman playing this role, so I was really honored and blessed when CATCO called and offered me the role, and I was very excited to just put my own spin on it and to bring her to life.
Now, when I saw the play,
Uh-huh.
it seemed like you was having a Janet Jackson sort of like malfunction trying to get out of that skirt. Now, was that skirt supposed to drop so that you were coming into your new queenship or not?
Yes. So you came on, what day was that? Friday, I think. Was it Friday or Friday? Yes, my skirt had a malfunction. You missed the bottom half of my gorgeous yellow sequin dress with a slit. What's so funny? What's so funny about that is we knew that it could be a possibility, so we already had a backup plan in place. And they already told me, if your zipper gets stuck, you just take a step forward, because then the band will know to start and we'll just move on.
It was so perfect. I know, things happen in live theater. And from the position where I was sitting, I could see, like, the people in the front probably had no idea because, hey, you professionals. You know what I'm saying? Professionals. And so they wouldn't have had any idea. But from the angle where I was sitting, I could see that your hand went back and that you were trying to unzip the zipper. And so, because being a director and producer and an actress myself, I knew that your hand wouldn't be back there for no reason.
Exactly.
Because our movements have a reason. So your hand being back there from the front looked like it was just on your hips. But from
you know how Tech Week works. How Tech Week works is by the time you get to running your full product, a lot of times you've only had maybe 2 or 3 times to practice that, so anything can happen.
And doesn't that make live theater fun? especially when you're in the moment and it's just like, well, here I am.
Yep.
Keep the professionalism. Gotta
Exactly.
keep going is what I tell
And
people.
you know what? If that's the worst thing that can happen to me while I'm on stage, I will take it.
And for my listeners out there and young actors, this is the key. And the reason I brought this up, and the reason I keep stressing this professionalism of it, and the way it just flows so evenly, is because when you are in live theater, anything can happen. And the thing is this: if you don't let the audience know, they won't know. And you just kept and also with that professionalism, as you brought up with the tech rehearsals, with that and the direction of the director saying, now look, this is live theater. These costumes here, so if something happens, this is the backup plan. And which is why I brought that up. Because
Yep.
I like to teach also. And
Yes.
I like to use teaching moments. And that was a teaching moment. You know, for anybody, and even people that were out on, they might have been like, oh, if that had been me, I don't know. But the director, Lita, who was just dynamite,
Yes.
Already put that out ahead of time,
She sure did. Yeah.
And you, the dynamite actress that you are, just kept right with the flow and went right on with it. I brought that up to say bravo to you because, like I said, a lot of people wouldn't have picked that up. But me being so detailed in which messes me up sometimes, like enjoy the show and quit, trying to look at this and that other. But nobody else would have known that.
Yes. And just to piggyback off of what you were saying about professionalism, since you like to teach, one of the key things to being a good actor, not just to have the talent of it, but it comes down to your professionalism. We all still have to audition and do things like that. But a lot of jobs that you get are from reoccurring and rebooking and things like that. And you can be the best actor in the world, but if you are not professional and consistent, they will never call you again. And I can promise you that.
Exactly. So that's a good, that I use that's a good teaching moment,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and that it comes with the territory, young actors or seasoned actors who decide you want to try to be an actor. It mix ups, costume glitches, light and music stuff comes with it, but how you handle it professionally is the key. It's going to keep you being cast. And like you said, we called all the way from New York City, right here to Columbus, Ohio to perform.
Yes.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the dynamics of the cast. It was so well cast and had so many different characters and people in it. Talk about that. How fun was that?
So one of the things that I absolutely love, you mentioned Lita Hoffman, our director, and just the new direction that CATCO is kind of moving in is she really goes out and she finds what she needs. And that is the key, I think, to having diversity in your cast and to keeping things interesting and to keeping not only people coming back, but CATCO's been around for a bajillion years, right? We need those new people to come in, those young people that are coming up that have never heard of CATCO. What's going to keep them coming back? And that's when representation matters. I don't know what her thought was behind it. Did she seek out to have a Black queen? I don't know. Am I so excited and happy to be representing that for all of the little Black girls that are maybe going to come see that show? Absolutely. That's why I love the diversity of this cast so much, is because she went out and saw everything that she wanted and made sure everyone was represented. Even the character of Pythio could have been easily disguised as someone who doesn't normally live their life like that, but she went out and found someone who, this is their life, and their representation matters as well. And I'm sure you could tell with the speech of this show, the Shakespearean speech, learning lines and things like that were not always the easiest. But the thing that I loved about this cast is we stayed very connected, very grounded, and we got through it together and made it to the other side. And I think that's what also made it such a great show. I mean, the show by itself is great, but when you get the chemistry of the cast together, I think you can see we actually do like each other. We actually do get along. And it just tells the story so much better.
Yes, and that's the key, something that you said. It's the stories. It's
Yes.
so easy to have someone act as a character,
Mm-hmm.
putting themselves in another's shoes. But it is so much more exciting and door opening to find someone who is actually in those shoes that
Mm-hmm.
also wants to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take the time, as you said, to actually make a conscious effort that this cast is going to be as diverse as it can be, regardless of race, color, creed, sexuality, gender, whatever, that is what we are trying to present, to tell a story
Mm-hmm.
that is based on real life people who are those people, or who really represent those people.
Yeah.
Like having a black queen, yeah, which we already know from our heritage and background,
Absolutely.
in our color, that we know we come from kings
Yes.
and queens. That's where we
Yes.
come from. See, that's in our DNA. It's
Yes.
kings and queens. And to
Absolutely.
be able to portray that
Mm-hmm.
is wonderful. The whole dynamics of head over heels, acceptance of people's genders, acceptance of people who they love, acceptance of
Mm-hmm.
people for trying to be better than they are, acceptance of people who make a determination that they are going to go for love, for what makes them happy. And so, as women,
Exactly.
as a woman, you have being able to portray this queen who had all those elements that you said.
Yes.
I want to talk. We have we're getting ready to switch the script a little bit. Still talking theater.
Okay.
There's a new play coming to Columbus, Ohio, the first of next year,
Yes.
called Slave Play.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And first, let me say, I hadn't heard about this play, but just the name, the title, Slave Play, brought up my antennas. And I said, okay, what is this about? Because I don't like to make judgments on things just based on titles. Because you can be a slave to anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? uh, and when I did some research, and I discovered that this play is a play about interracial couples,
Mm-hmm.
and not only interracial couples, but there's sexual things that go on between interracial couples.
Mm-hmm.
Added on to that, the plantation rapes,
Yes.
and even ending, I guess, in a horrific scene of a woman getting her clothes stuffed down her mouth,
Mm-hmm.
raped while being called racial slurs.
Mm-hmm.
And according to some people, well, this is a big New York thing, and all that, and it's okay to do
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, because you live in New York,
Yes.
if you could shed some light for me on what is the feelings about this, and not just from blacks, because it's talking interracial. So interracial means we talking black and whites,
Mm-hmm.
interracial.
Yes.
being raped or a raper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are you privy to any kind of talk about that? What's your feelings about that type of a play that, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion,
Yes.
kind of glorifies rape of women, and I don't, not just black, but women,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah. So I have a couple of opinions on it. I don't want to comment too much about the story itself because I've only read through half of it. I'm in the process actually now of reading it because it has been brought up a lot. So I don't want to comment about the show itself. I do have some opinions about it being done and it being produced. The whole point of theater is to bring up discussion and to bring up conversation. Is this going to be triggering for some people? Absolutely, 100%. And if some people choose to sit this one out, absolutely, I would never, ever, 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 ever deny someone from that. Number one. Number two, theater is made to have people talk and to have people discuss. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it right now on a, Tuesday afternoon at 2:30. So accomplished, one thing accomplished. I'm not saying that everything on Broadway is amazing and that it's meant to happen. It caused a lot of controversy in New York too. A lot of people had a lot of very strong opinions about it, but it was nominated for, what is it, 8 Tony Awards or something like that. And some people really loved it because of just the conversation that it triggered. I think we can't sit on two sides of the fence here. Do we want to bring thought-provoking theater to Columbus, Ohio, or do we want to stay behind this screen that we've been behind for so long? You know what I mean? Do we want to advance our theater community? Do we want to bring thought-provoking work here? Or do we want to just stay in our little Columbus bubble? So I think there's two sides to every story. I get what you mean. I don't think that the trauma of Black people needs to continuously be drugged through the mud like this. But I think that it depends on the way the story is told. I know I'm familiar with the theater company that's doing it. I happen to know for a fact that they are bringing on a entire team of color for this. So I know that it will be very well discussed, very well researched, and very well represented. So that part I do have an opinion on. And so I'm excited to see what they do with it, to be honest with you. I'm excited for a theater like that to attack such a strong work, I guess is the best way to put it.
Let's piggyback off what you just said in regards
Okay.
to and the way you said it. It's nominated for 8 Tonys.
Yeah.
You've been an actress. You've been in there 20 years. How many Tonys have been nominated for greater works that represented Black people in a more positive way? How many Oscars have been given to movies that portrayed women, men, in comparable, not too light positions? The reason I say that is because there's a big thing going on, I understand, because I look at the Oscars and Tonys and all that, and I listen to the people who use that platform to present how racially biased the Oscars and Tonys are, how they are against women, people of color, and gender. So the reason I asked you that is because you said it with such glee that because it had been nominated for 8 Oscars, and saying that to a person like me,
Mm-hmm.
who has been watching movies and Oscars and watching great works being ignored,
Mm-hmm.
watching great stories being ignored that represent not the bad, but represent the good and the honor. So I'm glad we had this conversation, because
Yeah.
there are probably other people like you that are thinking that. Was got 8 Oscars? They nominated, so it must be good. Because that will explain why also there are people that think that because a handful of white people decide that something is Oscar worthy, because that's who's judging it. My people aren't on that board.
Mm-hmm.
Your people aren't on that board.
Yeah.
So there may be a production company that's black, and all team black that's producing it, but they ain't the ones backing it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I
And,
definitely
and
think
before,
that.
and first, I don't want you to be defensive, because, like I said, I'm glad we having this conversation, because
Oh,
there's a new
absolutely.
way. We have the people that don't, they're fine with it, because like it should be discussed and all that, which is all good, and yeah, we should look at people and traumatize people, and like you say, they don't want to come, they don't have to come, but there might be people in there that forgot that they was even raped as a kid, or whatever, or there may be people in there that thought they was okay, and then there may be freaks in there that just came so they could sit back there under their cloak or their coat and
Mm-hmm.
and do their thing while they watch all this goes on. So there are a lot of elements
Yeah, there's a lot of elements,
involving a play that depicts rape, racial demeaning, and that also says that interracial couples shouldn't even be together.
mm-hmm.
So there's two, like you said, there's two sides to it, and that's why I was happy to get your side, because you're right there in New York.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that there is an imbalance in the system when it comes to, the Tonys and Oscars and things like that you mentioned. But, I think in the same breath, we put a lot of weight on things like that. You know what I mean? Like people give a lot of weight to the Oscars and the Tonys, and,
Who gives a lot of weight to it, Kendra?
I think the people in the business in general put a lot of
The
weight into
business,
it.
but what about society in large?
Well, I think
Because
society,
of course a business is going to put a lot of weight in it.
yeah,
It's a bit,
of course.
but should works just represent the business, or should writers and producers who are minorities
Mhm.
and have the LGB, all that, should it only be worried about the business, or do we as people who produce, and you're not a producer, so I'm asking you, what do you think producers should do? I'm a producer, so I'm talking to you based on what I know and what I think my obligation
Yeah.
as a producer putting that work out there is.
Mhm.
Um, and I would decide to some people that my obligation is to put the truth out, even if it hurts. All of the truth, not the pieces that others have decided is the most important piece of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk
Well,
on
I mean,
that.
I think if anyone is writing, producing, directing for anything other than themselves, meaning if you're writing for something to win an award, if you're producing to make some kind of award happen, that's one of the very first things they tell you as an actor. If you're in this business for any other reason other than your love for sharing a story with other people, then you need to get out of it. I get that it's also a business, that there is money to be made, However, the artistic side of things should be done for you and only for you. If you're a producer because you feel like the truth needs to be told, then that's what needs to be done. We all want to make money, of course. I don't do this for free. Like, I have bills to pay, but we need to do it for our love of the art form. I like to see thought-provoking theater, something that's going to question things, make people be, to think about what is going on in the world. That's what I like to see. I like to see passion behind it. Some people do choose, the cookie cutter when they go to New York, what they want to see. Oh, this is Aladdin. It won a bajillion Tonys. This won a ton of Oscars. That's not what me as the artist is looking for. I want to see something that's going to, keep me thinking and keep my mind moving and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about anything when people choose to produce it and put the thought out there and the idea out there. I think it's important for us as artists and as people to keep an open mind, to, view it. How do I want to say this? I think it's important to keep the open mind. I really do. I really do. And this is not me defending them doing this show. This is not me saying that this show is a perfect show to do. But again, it's thought-provoking. It's getting us talking. It's getting a lot of people talking. This is not the first time that this show has been brought up since it was announced just a couple days ago. I've had a couple of these conversations with people, but I hate to say it, but I'm kind of here for it. I really am. I really am. Anything that's going to bring, again, I hate to keep saying it, but more thought-provoking work into this town, I think is the best way to go. People's minds are never going to change unless we put it out there and for them to see it and for us to all talk about it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's why I promote original works needing to be produced. But I also produce and I also promote works that include everyone, works that represent everyone. And most importantly, for me and my children and my grandchildren and their children to come, works that they can look back on and say, hey, I'm proud of that. You know what I'm saying? And that they can see where their legacy, their true, as I said, king and queen dumbhood.
Yes. I
absolutely
only try
to, so as long as we remember that no matter how many times they want to remind us that we were slaves, no matter how many times that they want to remind us that Black women was nothing more than cattle called to be, which is why we have such a hard time with it now, because as long as they remember, whoever is watching this of whatever, as long as you remember that that's your past, not your present and not your future. And no matter how many times they give Oscars and Tonys and awards for only the work that represents you as less than them, we'll be struggling. That's all I got to say. Absolutely. So this was a great conversation. It's going to be, I think it's just good. I think that it's important that, and I was excited, Kendra, because you know what? I didn't even know you lived in New York.
Yes.
So, so when you said you lived in New York, and remember, I told you before we even started that I'm a piggy banker off of my interviews and stuff. So when you said that, I was like, well, wait a minute, I got somebody right here that lives in New York that I can ask, what's the deal? You know, what's the word in New York? And I got a couple other friends and things, so people that I know out there. I want to get everybody's opinion on this, because when you're informed and you know about something, then you can do something about it and make a change about something. And as you put out your own self, Kendra, they can decide if they want to be in the seats or not. Exactly. And that's my job, is to present the sides and let people figure it out. Do you want to be in the seats? It's up to you. I know I'll be in the seats that I want to be in, and everybody has the right to be in theirs.
Yep.
So before we end this show, why don't you give a word of encouragement to someone out there that is thinking, oh man, you know, COVID's over and I haven't been doing anything for a while, and give them a word of encouragement, because you're back out there, girl, traveling and doing some stuff.
Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, where do I start? I had a long journey with COVID. I will tell you that. So if anybody can speak on it, I certainly can. During COVID, I made a little bit of a shift myself. I was in a off-Broadway show for the last 5 or 6 years that was just going to keep running, and I was going to keep doing it as long as I kept, as long as I kept showing up, they were going to keep paying me. COVID shut it down and COVID closed it. And I really had to sit and face, like, what was I going to do? Did I want to continue doing this? What was I going to do next? And I got into casting. So I've been working as a casting director for probably, close to a year now. I was very blessed to come back and have this opportunity with CATCO to still be able to do a little bit of theater. So if I had to say, I would think that my word of encouragement is, there's always going to be something out there. I don't want to push anyone, because COVID was a lot for a lot of people. If you think your time with theater is done, I'm not going to push you to say, get back on the saddle. You can do it. You can do it, because this business is not easy. If you found something else out there that you absolutely love, you are more than welcome and 100% to go explore that and do that as well, because you have to know that theater is going nowhere. However, theater is back, and if you are ready to attack it with a vengeance, and you know that this is what you want to do, and there is nothing else in the world that brings you more happiness, it's here, it's ready. Get on that horse and go for it. I think COVID taught us all a lot of things. Not to if you're in this business already, you already know how exhausting it can be and just things like that. And I think COVID all taught us that different side of things is A, to rest, B, to know your worth, and see what you are willing to and to not accept in the room, in the room when you're auditioning, on the job when you're working. Know your worth, know your worth, know your worth, know your worth. We know what we're accepting now, and we know what we're not accepting now. And that's all I have to say about that, because I think we all know what that comes with. The microaggressions of this business, the daily trials that we go through with this business. Whew, I'm going to make myself cry here. But yes, this business was made for us, just like it was made for anybody else. So if this is what you want to do and this is where your passion is, it's here.
Man, that's great. Great words of encouragement. It's truly gonna bless some of my audiences that are listening, my radio audience, as well as the YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Kendra, for being on Let's Talk Theater, for being so open and honest about what you feel. Because sometimes people aren't, you know, and I love strength. I feel like this. Either you believe in what you believe in, or you don't. And it doesn't matter what somebody else thinks, whether it's opposite of what you think, or they completely different, or even if they agree with you with everything you say. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is this: what do you believe in? What do you feel? And what's your passion? So I thank you for being so honest with me, especially in talking about this play, slave play.
And you know what? I hope every person that you ask, I hope each person has a different opinion and a different answer about it.
And be honest, and be willing to honestly say whatever it is you think.
Yes.
Because as you said, that's the key. The key is that. And then people, I believe, when you have information, pros and cons, then you can make an educated decision on what you're going to do for you.
Yep.
But you keep it up, girl. I hope I see you here soon again on the stage.
Absolutely.
And maybe that job will come back to, they're going to come back. You'll be working again, girl, every week on the stage, pulling in their cash.
Here's hoping. Here's hoping.
Thank you so much, Kendra, for being with me on Let's Talk Theater.
Thanks so much, Julie, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a great time.
See you on the stage soon. Head over heels, guys.
CATCO.org.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you for joining me, Julie Whitney Scott, your producer and host of Let's Talk Theater, a Mind for God production sponsored event, heard only on WGRN LP 94.1. For the full video interview, go to my Julie Whitney Scott Facebook page.